Friends, ask yourself a question honestly. Have you ever felt that despite everything, your mind is empty? The phone is in your hand, the content is unlimited, reels, shorts, web series, music, games. The world is ready to give something new every second. Still, the focus is not made, the motivation is lost, and life seems to be running on an autopilot mode. You sit down to work, but your mind runs away. You have big dreams, but small distractions stop you every time. If you feel that this is only happening to you, then wait. You are not alone. This is not a laziness. This is not a weakness, and this is not a character flaw either. This is a silent addiction called dopamine overload. Today's video is about the same invisible enemy that is slowly hollowing out your discipline, focus, confidence, and future without a sound. And this is why today we are going to talk about a book that not only motivates, but also teaches your mind to train again. The Dopamine Discipline. In this video, you will not only learn what dopamine is, but you will also understand how small habits of your daily life, like checking your phone again and again, looking for instant pleasure, and consumption without thinking, are changing the wiring of your brain. You will know why the work that used to seem exciting today feels boring. Why is there no action despite having goals? Why has discipline become a struggle now? This video will give you the clarity that the real problem is not outside, but is hidden in the imbalance of your brain chemistry. You will learn that dopamine detox does not mean to leave the world, but to reset your mind so that the hard work seems rewarding again. You will understand why suppressing urges does not work and how to handle them intelligently. You will know that discipline is not only made up of willpower, but also of environment, habits, and daily choices. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand what is the difference between short-term pleasure and long-term clarity, and why people who learn to control their impulses are actually free. And if you are a person who feels potential inside, but is not able to bring it out, if you want your focus to be sharp, your mind to be calm, and your confidence to return slowly, if you want control in your life, not distraction, then this video is for you. Watching it halfway will be unfair to you because every lesson is connected like a chain, and the last insight can change your entire perspective. So watch the video fully, listen carefully, and if you feel that you need such deep, practical, and life-changing book summaries in the future, then subscribe to the Bookpedia channel right now. This is not just a channel. This is the place for those who want clarity, not excuses, who want mastery, not motivation, and who want to become the masters of their minds. Now, without further ado, let's begin. The Dopamine Discipline. Chapter 1. Understanding the Dopamine Trap. Imagine a person who has everything but still has no peace from within. The phone is in his hand all day, notifications keep coming, reels do not end. But as soon as the phone is put down, a strange anxiety begins. The mind wants to do something, but the body does not support it. As soon as he thinks of starting work, the mind starts running. This is not a coincidence. This is the most silent, but the most dangerous truth of today's world, which can be called the dopamine trap. Dopamine is not a bad thing, but it is the same chemical that makes us want to move forward, get something, and become better. But when this dopamine, without hard work, is found again and again, then this same power becomes our biggest weakness. Today's man is used to getting rewards even before he works hard. He needs knowledge without studying. He needs fitness without running. He needs pleasure without waiting. Gradually, the mind becomes a slave to this easy reward system. When every joy is a click, a swipe, or a tap away, then why should the mind choose hard work? This is where the real problem begins. Dopamine overload reduces the sensitivity of the mind. Things that used to seem exciting now feel boring. Reading a book seems heavy, learning seems tiring, and discipline feels like a punishment. The most dangerous thing is that a person feels that he lacks motivation, when in reality, his mind is used to overstimulation. The mind always needs high-intensity stimulation. When it is not there, then restlessness, laziness, and frustration arise. This is why people have big dreams, but are afraid of taking small actions. The mind needs instant pleasure, not long-term growth. Dopamine traps a person in the present moment, where it is necessary to feel good only now. What will happen later does not matter. This trap is dangerous because it develops gradually. No one is addicted in a day. Choosing small choices, distractions, running away from discomfort trains the mind that effort is unnecessary. Then a time comes when it seems difficult to sit without distraction. Silence starts to frighten. Empty time makes one restless. This is the point where a person starts to lose his mind. But here a truth is very important to understand. Dopamine is not a problem. The problem is the misuse of dopamine. When dopamine is associated with hard work, progress, and patience, it makes a person unstoppable. But when dopamine is associated only with consumption and stimulation, it makes a person weak. Discipline is born in this gap. Discipline does not mean to torture yourself, but to teach your mind the right reward system. The biggest step in this beginning is awareness. It is not necessary to act on every urge. It is not freedom to satisfy every craving. Real freedom comes when a person can choose what to pay attention to and who not. The way out of the dopamine trap starts not by changing the outside world, but by understanding the wiring inside. As soon as a person understands how his mind is working, control starts coming back. This control becomes clarity, focus, and the foundation of discipline. Chapter 2. How instant pleasure destroys discipline. Discipline never breaks in a jolt in life, but gradually weakens with small daily decisions. Whenever the mind gets pleasure without hard work, it considers the same path to be safe and best. Today's man has learned to run away from every discomfort. As soon as there is a little boredom, the phone rings. As soon as the mind is heavy, someone starts playing a video. As soon as the focus starts to break, a quick shot of dopamine is taken. It seems harmless in the beginning, but from here, the erosion of discipline starts. The mind starts to forget the relationship between effort and reward. It is taught that without struggle, you can feel good. And this thought eats the growth of man in a long time. The biggest loss of instant pleasure is that it kills patience. Discipline is always slow, silent, and uncomfortable in the beginning. But instant pleasure is loud, colorful, and immediately rewards. When the mind repeatedly chooses instant reward, it stops trusting the long-term process. Education, skill building, fitness, business, or self-improvement, everything seems boring because it does not get its reward immediately. The mind asks, "What will I get now?" And if the answer is not clear, it leaves work before it starts. This is why people make a lot of plans but fail in execution. Discipline does not mean just following a routine. Discipline means tolerating discomfort. But instant pleasure has turned discomfort into an enemy. As soon as the mind feels a little strain, it starts looking for an escape route. This escape gradually becomes a habit. Then the person says to himself and justifies that today there is no mood, today there is no energy, today is not the right time. In fact, the right time never comes because the mind has no habit of waiting. Instant pleasure creates another dangerous illusion that control is in external things. People think that phones, apps, content, or people are distracting. But the truth is that the problem is of choice. Every time a person chooses short-term comfort, he steals something from his future self. Focus, confidence, and self-respect gradually leak. The most painful thing is that a person does not even know why he is feeling weak from within. A clear sign of discipline breaking is that a person starts breaking promises, especially the promises he has made to himself. I will start from tomorrow, just 5 more minutes. I'll leave it today. All these lines are silent killers. Instant pleasure makes the mind believe that I deserve to rest now. I will work hard later, but it never comes later. This cycle keeps repeating, and a person keeps falling below his own standards. The thing to understand here is that it is not a solution to completely remove instant pleasure, but it is a solution to keep it in the right place. When pleasure is found after hard work, it strengthens the discipline. But when pleasure is found before hard work and at all times, it weakens the discipline. It is important to teach the mind that reward comes after effort, not escape. As soon as a person learns to delay instant pleasure, the discipline starts coming back. In the beginning, it is uncomfortable. Cravings come, boredom increases. But this is the phase where the mind starts resetting. Discipline is not made of pain. Discipline is made of choice. Every time when a person chooses long-term clarity instead of short-term pleasure, he signals his mind that control is being taken back. This signal slowly becomes a habit, and that habit takes a person to the version he always wanted to be. Chapter 3. Rewiring the brain for focus and control. When a person begins to understand how his brain works, then the real change begins. The brain is not an enemy. It only does what it is trained to do. For years, it has been trained for instant pleasure, distraction, and comfort. Therefore, focus and discipline now seem unnatural. But just as habits are made, habits can also be changed. The wiring of the brain does not stop. It can be reshaped. If a person sends the right signals with consistency and patience, the biggest enemy of focus is not multitasking, but overstimulation. When the brain is always in a high dopamine state, it forgets to go into deep focus. Rewiring begins with silence. Without sitting on the phone, without listening to music, and without distraction, the habit of thinking seems uncomfortable in the beginning. But this discomfort becomes the first step to reset the brain. As soon as a person stops running away from boredom, the brain slowly learns to stabilize itself. To gain control does not mean to suppress urges, but to observe them. As soon as the urge comes, acting on it has become a reflex. Rewiring means breaking that reflex. When the craving comes and the person stops for a few minutes, then the brain gets a new message that reaction is not necessary. This pause slowly becomes power. It is understood that the urge is not permanent. It rises like a wave and calms down on its own. The most important thing is to accept small actions. The brain is afraid of big goals, but it easily accepts. When a person does a little focused work every day without any immediate reward, then the dopamine system starts working in a healthy way. The brain learns to combine effort with reward. This process slowly increases the focus duration and makes discipline natural. The environment also plays a big role in rewiring. The brain chooses what is in front. If the phone is close, the distraction will be automatic. If the book, notebook, or tools are in front, the focus becomes easy. Control does not mean to make yourself strong, but to make the environment smart. When temptations are removed, then willpower is saved. This is the reason why disciplined people do not test themselves, but remove the triggers. An important part of rewiring is also physical movement. Exercise works like a reset button, not only for the body, but also for the brain. Physical stress releases healthy dopamine, which increases mental clarity. When the body is active, the mind becomes naturally calm and focused. This is why movement becomes the foundation of discipline. The biggest shift happens when a person learns to enjoy progress. Instead of focusing on the result, focusing on the process gives the brain the training to play long-term games. When satisfaction comes from daily efforts, then the need for external stimulation decreases. Focus does not become helplessness, choice, control struggle, identity. Rewiring is not an overnight miracle. It is a silent process in which every day there is a little change. But as the brain learns new patterns, the clarity increases, distractions become weak, and the person feels more present, powerful, and disciplined than before. This is the stage where focus is not just a way to work, but a way to live life. Chapter 4. The Power of Delayed Reward. The biggest test of the human brain is when there are two ways in front of it. One way immediately makes you feel good without hard work, without waiting. The other way quietly asks for hard work, wants patience, and puts the reward in the future. Most people choose the first way, not because the other is wrong, but because the brain has not been taught to wait. Delayed reward has become a lost skill in today's world, and as soon as this skill is over, discipline also becomes weak. When a person wants to get everything immediately, then he disconnects his brain from long-term thinking. The brain connects immediate pleasure with survival. As soon as the reward is delayed, the brain sends a signal of danger, creates anxiety, and pushes the person back to the easy option. This is the reason why people start an excitement, but leave it in a few days. Effort without reward seems meaningless, and discipline becomes a heavy burden. The power of delayed reward is understood when a person consciously practices waiting. When a craving arises and a person does not satisfy it immediately, then the brain learns a new lesson. It understands that there is no harm in waiting. Gradually, patience becomes not a threat, but a strength. This strengthens training focus and self-control. A person begins to realize that he is not a slave to his impulses. Delayed reward is not only for big goals, but is also hidden in small daily habits. When a person completes his work without distraction and then gives himself rest, then the brain connects effort and satisfaction. But when rest comes first and work comes later, then the whole system is reversed. The brain becomes an expert. The biggest effect of this power is on identity. When a person repeatedly proves himself that he can wait, can keep control, then a new self-image is formed in him. He begins to see himself as a disciplined person. This identity slowly begins to shape the behavior. Discipline is not a compulsion. It becomes a part of the character. Delayed reward also redefines boredom. At first, boredom seems scary, but with practice, it becomes neutral. When a person learns to sit in boredom, then creativity and clarity are born. The brain does not feel the need to fill every empty moment. This is the space that gives birth to deep thinking and self-awareness. The biggest thing is that delayed reward rebuilds confidence. Every time when a person leaves short-term pleasure and chooses long-term clarity, then he creates respect for himself. This respect is silent, but very powerful. No one praises you from the outside. There is a voice inside that says you are in control. This voice becomes the real fuel of discipline. Delayed reward is not a punishment. It is an agreement with the future. It is the identity of that person who lives not only for today, but also for tomorrow. As a person masters this skill, distractions lose their power. The focus deepens, and in life, clarity starts creating space. Chapter 5. Building discipline as a daily identity. Most people see discipline as a temporary phase, like a few days challenge, a new routine, or a motivational burst. But discipline is not something that can be built in a few days. Real discipline is born when it comes out of action and becomes an identity. When a person stops telling himself that I have to be disciplined and slowly starts believing that I am a disciplined person, then the real transformation begins. This is what makes shift discipline permanent. Discipline becomes choices before it becomes an identity. The way to wake up every morning, the way to handle distractions, and the way to keep your promises all together make a self-image. Every small action is like a vote that decides what kind of person a person is becoming. When a person chooses the right choice, even if it is uncomfortable, then the mind starts taking that behavior as normal. Gradually, discipline does not seem like an extra effort, but becomes a default setting. The biggest enemy of daily discipline is perfection. People think that if the whole plan is not followed, then everything is useless. But discipline is formed by consistency, not intensity. One day being less calm is not a failure, but leaving it again and again becomes a failure. When a person shows himself daily, whether in a mood or not, then identity becomes strong. The mind understands that action does not depend on feelings. This realization saves discipline from emotional ups and downs. In identity-based discipline, the environment works like a silent partner. Disciplined people keep such things around them to remind them who they are. Limited use of the phone, clean workspace, sleeping and waking up on time are all signals that tell the mind who is in control. When the environment aligns with identity, then self-control becomes easy. Rituals play a big role. Small rituals, such as sitting quietly for a few minutes in the morning, planning for the day, or self-review at the end of the day, give structure to discipline. Rituals give security to the mind so that it can stay focused even in chaos. Discipline does not remain a struggle, it turns into a flow. The most powerful moment comes when a person says to himself in front of the temptation that this is not me. This does not come from a rejection force, but from clarity. Guilt is reduced in identity-based discipline because choices seem natural. When behavior matches with identity, then inner conflict ends. This inner peace makes discipline long-lasting. Discipline as identity teaches a person to love the process more than the result. Progress can be slow, but direction is clear. Every day it becomes a victory to move towards a better version. The need for external validation is reduced because there is a satisfaction of consistency inside. When discipline becomes identity, then there is no need for motivation. Actions become automatic. A person starts trusting himself because he has seen himself doing it every day. This trust turns into confidence, and that confidence starts spilling over in every area of life. Discipline is no longer a burden, it becomes a human identity, and this identity separates it from the crowd. Chapter 6. Mastering Urges and Breaking. Old patterns. A person's biggest fight is not with the outside world, but with the urges within himself. These urges come suddenly, seem very real, and make the mind believe that if you don't take action now, something will go wrong. The urge to pick up the phone, the urge to run in distraction, the urge to choose comfort, these are all old patterns. Discipline breaks when a person starts fighting these urges because they get stronger. Real mastery comes when a person learns to understand the urges, not to be afraid of them. Every urge has a cycle. This is what makes shift discipline permanent. Discipline becomes choices before it becomes an identity. The way to wake up every morning, the way to handle distractions, and the way to keep your promises all together make a self-image. Every small action is like a vote that decides what kind of person a person is becoming. When a person chooses the right choice, even if it is uncomfortable, then the mind starts taking that behavior as normal. Gradually, discipline does not seem like an extra effort, but becomes a default setting. The biggest enemy of daily discipline is perfection. People think that if the whole plan is not followed, then everything is useless. But discipline is formed by consistency, not intensity. One day being less calm is not a failure, but leaving it again and again becomes a failure. When a person shows himself daily, whether in a mood or not, then identity becomes strong. The mind understands that action does not depend on feelings. This realization saves discipline from emotional ups and downs. In identity-based discipline, the environment works like a silent partner. Disciplined people keep such things around them to remind them who they are. Limited use of the phone, clean workspace, sleeping and waking up on time are all signals that tell the mind who is in control. When the environment aligns with identity, then self-control becomes easy. Rituals play a big role. Small rituals such as sitting quietly for a few minutes in the morning, planning for the day, or self-review at the end of the day give structure to discipline. Rituals give security to the mind so that it can stay focused even in chaos. Discipline does not remain a struggle, it turns into a flow. The most powerful moment comes when a person says to himself in front of the temptation that this is not me. This does not come from a rejection force, but from clarity. Guilt is reduced in identity-based discipline because choices seem natural. When behavior matches with identity, then inner conflict ends. This inner peace makes discipline long-lasting. Discipline as identity teaches a person to love the process more than the result. Progress can be slow, but direction is clear. Every day it becomes a victory to move towards a better version. The need for external validation is reduced because there is a satisfaction of consistency inside. When discipline becomes identity, then there is no need for motivation. Actions become automatic. A person starts trusting himself because he has seen himself doing it every day. This trust turns into confidence, and that confidence starts spilling over in every area of life. Discipline is no longer a burden, it becomes a human identity, and this identity separates it from the crowd. Chapter 6. Mastering Urges and Breaking. Old patterns. A person's biggest fight is not with the outside world, but with the urges within himself. These urges come suddenly, seem very real, and make the mind believe that if you don't take action now, something will go wrong. The urge to pick up the phone, the urge to run in distraction, the urge to choose comfort, these are all old patterns. Discipline breaks when a person starts fighting these urges because they get stronger. Real mastery comes when a person learns to understand the urges, not to be afraid of them. Every urge has a cycle. It is born, goes to the peak, and if you don't act on it, it falls automatically. But most people surrender before reaching the peak. The mind has learned that urge means action. To break this old pattern, the first step is pause. When the urge comes, stop for a few seconds. This small gap turns automatic behavior into conscious choice. This is the beginning of gap control. The practice of observing the urges is very powerful. As soon as the craving comes, if a person says to himself that I am feeling it, then he becomes a little different from the urge. He does not remain the urge, but becomes the observer of the urge. This shift is not only psychological, but also neurological. The mind understands that reaction is not necessary. This awareness reduces the intensity of urges. Old patterns are strong because they are familiar. The mind connects familiarity with safety, even if it is harmful. When a person chooses a new behavior, the mind creates discomfort. This discomfort appears as an urge. If this discomfort is tolerated, the mind slowly accepts the new pattern. Every time when a person does not follow the old pattern, he reduces his power a little. Replacement in urge mastery is very important. The mind does not like if the old habit is removed and no new action is taken, the mind will go back to the same path. That is why when there is an urge, it is important to choose a simple, healthy action. Walking, drinking water, writing, or paying attention to breathing for a few minutes. This replacement gives a new exit to the mind. The biggest change comes when a person separates urges from identity. Urge is not a failure. Discipline does not come from not having an urge, but from making the right choice despite the urge. When a person reminds himself that the urge is temporary and identity permanent, then control becomes easy. Guilt and shame strengthen urges, while acceptance weakens them. Breaking old patterns is not a matter of one day. It happens with repetition. Every time a person pauses, observes, and consciously chooses, a new neural pathway is created in the mind. Old paths are filled with grass, and new paths are cleared. This process leads to mastery. To gain control over urges does not mean to kill emotions, but to live wisely. When a person learns this, then discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes a skill that is sharpened every day. And slowly, the same person who used to lose to impulses now takes the steering in his own hands. Chapter 7. Living with clarity in a distracted world. Today's world is made for attention. Every app, every platform, and every screen has one purpose: to attract your attention and keep it close to you. In such an environment, clarity does not come on its own. It has to be consciously chosen. Most people do not live in confusion because they are weak, but because their mind is constantly immersed in noise. When every moment becomes a habit of consuming something new, then one's own voice stops being heard. Clarity begins with silence, and silence has become the rarest luxury of today. When a person gets out of distraction, then emptiness is felt in the beginning. This is the same phase that most people are afraid of and return to noise. But this emptiness is the gateway to clarity. When the mind comes out of overstimulation, then it starts sorting things naturally. Thoughts begin to settle, priorities begin to clear, and the capacity to make decisions begins to return. Clarity is not a magical insight. It is the result of mental space. To maintain clarity in a distracted world does not mean to leave the world, but to make consumption intentional. It is not necessary to see everything. It is not necessary to take every information, and it is not necessary to react to every opinion. When a person learns to choose whom to pay attention to, only then his time and energy is saved. This is called saved energy growth. Clarity comes when attention is not scattered everywhere. A large part of clarity is associated with emotional regulation. When the mind is calm, then emotions also remain stable. Distraction amplifies emotions, whether it is fear, jealousy, or anxiety. When a person reduces external noise, then emotional reactions also begin to soften. Response becomes thoughtful. Reaction does not remain automatic. This difference draws the line between maturity and chaos. Living with clarity also means simplifying goals. Most people are confused because they have held too many things. When priorities are clear, then decisions become easy. Not every opportunity seems exciting. Not every distraction seems tempting. Clarity teaches a person to say no, and this no is actually the protection of focus. Clarity gradually gives birth to confidence. When a person knows what to do and why to do it, then the need for comparison decreases.